Welcome everyone to the Winning Together podcast. We're very grateful you're able to join us for this very special edition where we're diving into some topics from an event that we hosted recently for the Iron Recovery called Arena Talks, Into the Arena. I'm joined by Jared, the coolest clinician around, Casey, and this is Shay, the Shark Aslet. So, Jared, we host an event, Into the Arena. How do you get into the arena of joy and happiness and struggle and suffering to change that experience that you're having in your life to something that has purpose? That pain has purpose, that suffering has, a point, and you're able to transform your experience and create new possibilities. Communication is a huge topic. It's essential, and we wanted to talk about some communication topics that came up at this event that parents brought up about their loved ones, either kids or spouses. Where do you want to focus on as far as this communication goes?
There's a rule that I've been trying to live by in my own life, and I'm encouraging my clients to look at this rule as well, because something we do is we practice what we preach. If we're going to talk to you guys on this podcast, these are things that Shay and I are working on. Like we're humans making mistakes just like anybody else. And one of the rules that I am trying to live by is to treat my family at least as well as I treat strangers.
Yep.
And as low as a bar as that is, we've got history, we've got drama, we've got reasons to struggle. And one of the families, just talking at this event, mentioned that they're a little bit envious of how well the clinicians and the coaches can talk to their children, and how much we can say to their children, and their children will listen, and we can call them on the carpet.
It's not different information, by the way. Often, it's not different. It's the same content.
Same content, different voice. And they were envious, like, why can you tell my son, call him on the carpet, and I go to talk to him about the same thing, and he tells me to stick it or to F off. Why is it still like that? I don't want that anymore. I want to be able to have real, genuine conversations with my son and grow, or a daughter,
or a spouse,
yeah.
The way we phrase it in our house is, you're my VIP. My VIP clients. My family is as VIP as anybody else in my life, and that changes for us. That's really worked as the same idea as what would the VIPs of my other areas of my life get, that my family gets that, or better.
Yeah, and you have to start looking at, all right, if I'm willing to practice this way, I'm going to treat my loved ones at least as good as I treat strangers. Am I establishing a connection and a boundary with them? Am I letting them know that I'm practicing this? We've talked about this in other podcasts. Am I being clear about my goals? Hey, wife, son, daughter, I really want to improve our relationship. I think that something would be powerful for me is if I could have more clear communication with you. How do you feel about that? And instead of going to a place of blame or dictatorship, we're doing this now, family rule, and that's why. And I just said I have a family rule. But
or saying, hey, honey, spouse, I need you to improve in these ways.
You need to improve in these ways for us to be healthier.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't work that way. We have to take it inward and look inside ourselves and say, I want to create more. I need to have a better communication style. I didn't have this child to say goodbye when they're 17, 18, or to lose them to drug abuse or alcohol or homelessness or whatever. I want to have a lifelong relationship with this person and forever. So for me to do that, when I call them, are they going to want to pick up the phone because they're excited to hear my voice? Or are they going to hit ignore because they don't want to talk to me anymore? What is it going to be?
What topics are they not going to tell me when I call? Because they know if they go there, I'm going to say, well, shouldn't you be doing this? And start either being critical or judgmental or, not validating or not seeing them as their own person. Going to that place, like you said, and saying, spouse, son, father, person that I want to connect more with, how can I communicate better with you? What am I doing that's not getting us the communication that we really want?
And you're spot on. I had a mom of a client tell me recently that she was so excited that her son started dating again. You know, his year plus sobriety. He's got a girlfriend. And she immediately starts going to advice giving. You need to do this. You need to treat her this way. You need to do this.
Yeah.
And he immediately shuts down and has a big blow-up fight. You're not going to be anywhere near my girlfriend. That's a challenge. And then all of a sudden there's this disconnect in this old pattern of, well, I still feel like I'm not part of your life because you won't let me be part of your life. So as I've talked with this mother, I've reminded her, it's not about telling them anymore. You're listening. You're being part of their life. You're joining with them. Don't be quick to solve their problems. It's okay.
So the kind of the heart of that advice giving is a lack of empathy for your child in this case, or for your spouse or whatnot. And when you go to try and straight fixing the problem, you may be sympathetic, but you're really trying to fix them, and that often the message is I'm broken. You tell me I'm broken, or that I'm not smart, or all those things. And empathy is how you create the space there for them to want to bring their girlfriend to you.
Yeah, and you're sending this message that you're still just a child. And well, this child may be 20, 25, 30. They're a grown-up now.
And emotionally, they may be a child, and you can see it clearly as a parent. Let's not not acknowledge that.
So true. However, like you said, if we're not using empathy, we're using this advice or solution or whatever, we're not allowing them to grow and find their own solutions. And it's like anytime you pretty much ask anybody, hey, I need some advice on this, and you give them some great advice, they don't always run out and immediately do it. If we did, we'd be all killing it in every area of our life. So we got to stop doing that. We have to pull the reins back, listen, empathize, witness, love, care, all those good things.
So here's the coach. The coach is all about what? What do you do to create empathy? What does that even look like? I know there was a time where, and that's a concept that is tricky, I would say, these days. More tricky than maybe in other eras. But anyway, so empathy, what it looks like in that case is, son, what are you excited about dating him for? What are you nervous about? What do you see as challenges you're going to experience? Or how are you going to, how are you going to stay excited, or what, and getting curious, first of all, finding out what their challenges, what they see their challenges are, their hardships, or their exciting things and opportunities. And when you get curious and want to know what they're coming from, and you just listen, you just, oh, wow, that sounds great, or yeah, that would be really hard. Oh, you think? Do kids really do that these days? Being curious. You don't have to say a thing. Because advice giving comes from a shaming place sometimes, where you're creating trust now by just empathizing. And when you give that, then what you will get is them coming and asking for your advice.
And the other thing is, if you're moving into an empathetic questioning of curiosity, when you start calling your loved one more, they're going to pick up the phone more. Mm-hmm. They're going to want to talk to you. They're going to want to engage with you. We often talk about you're transitioning your relationship from your young children, where mom and dad or whatever have always seen them as a kid, and kids need help and they don't know what they're doing, to child-adult relationships. So now we're becoming, I'm an adult and you're an adult. And like, you may not have the emotional adult in you yet, but I can model that by being a good listener and being empathetic and being your friend now. Not that, there's some knock on that, being friends with your kids, but this isn't the same. This is adult friendship, respecting them where they are and loving them as they are and working through that.
When you go to advice giving, also the relationship tends to become more transactional, and you don't want to create the same maybe space where you tell them advice, they don't take it, and then you say see, or you could have avoided all that kind of stuff that comes with that, because then they know that you're just in a transaction. You're gonna give me advice. If I do good, then I get good from you. If I don't, then I get bad from you. You just care about them as a person, and you care about their choices they're making. Not really at this point, when you're reestablishing connection, good, healthy connection, you're not so interested in making the choices good or bad. You're just taking interest in what their choices are and what their thinking are and where they're coming from. so that you're creating a friendship, a different type of friendship now in a different place and space that can grow.
And a piece of this, Jay, just came up even today. I was talking to a client about he's working his step 4. He's working on his making amends and restoring relationships. And he brought up that he went and talked to his brother, and he's like, brother, I really want to say I'm sorry and settle this stuff. And his brother's like, screw you, man, I don't want to talk to you. You know. And he had a hard time. This client had a hard time not going back into himself, saying, see, he's never going to change. He's always going to be that way. We weren't a family that shared emotions. I've been in therapy my whole life. I've been working on this my whole life. He's not ready yet. Doesn't matter if they're ready yet.
Yep.
What do you think?
So that's super important. When you are a hurting person and you decide to confront that hurt and to start reconnecting with yourself, part of that is going back and making amends that you need to make. And you're so excited and you're so fragile at that point. You feel like you need that person to accept what you're giving so that you can feel good about yourself and go forward. And it doesn't work like that way. They gave you at some point some space and you did some things were not good or not right or not okay. And the way to progress to that is giving them the same space. You need to do your step, but it's not conditional at all in any way, shape, or form on what they do with you doing your step. In fact, it's almost better that you let them know. In fact, how does that work from your view as a clinician is letting them know, like, you don't have to sit, I'm not asking for anything. I'm just telling you I want to make amends. When you're ready, I want to make it right. I want to say sorry. You don't have to say sorry back. You don't have to accept it. You can be mad. You can be exactly how you are, but this is something I need to do.
Yeah, that's essentially the essence of that step 4 is being willing to clean your side of the street, is what they call it. Like, just sweep your side. Get your side nice and clean and tidy and polished. And the way you do that is by giving that space for them, making your apologies, making your amends. Their side of the street might be filthy. It might be full of all kinds of stuff. It doesn't matter. It hurts. It's hard to see that, but that's okay. By allowing them to have that space, you're creating space inside you to move on. And as you move on, those other people, when they're ready, will see that and value that, and that will start to do something in them to let it go on their end.
If you're going into that transaction and they say, oh yeah, you're fine, you're forgiven, or I don't want to hold on to it, and it's not from a genuine place, it'll create resentment. And that resentment will become a real, rusty, sticky spot in your relationship going forward. And you're like, no, I said sorry. Why is there still a problem? It's because you didn't allow them to have some space and be angry or be mad or need time or whatever it is. And it's dealing with resentment up front, and that possibly up front, it's harder. It hurts maybe a little more, or you maybe feel like you want it to be different. It doesn't matter. You take care of what you need to take care of and allow them to be, so you give what you want to get. You give them space, you give them possibility, you give them, I'm being different, because then you're doing it for you. And then when the adversity comes, you're not so easily shaken either. So they'll be, see, I knew you're gonna, oh wait, they didn't fail at that problem. See, I knew, oh, you didn't fail at that problem. Because you're doing it because you care about how you look to you, not how you look to somebody else.
Yeah, I've seen this play out in so many different ways, and ultimately, don't expect people to arrive at the same conclusion as you. They're not going to arrive at forgiveness the same time as you. That's okay. You can get there. I had a family member who was deeply offended by another family member, big drama, big thing, and years go by, resentment's built up, all this junk. This family member shows up one day with a box of chocolates and a little letter. It's like, I'm really sorry that I did this to you, or that, not even that good. I'm just really sorry. It was real simple. And the other family member wasn't ready to receive it yet. No, thank you. Keep your chocolates. Throw the chocolates down. See, you're never going to change. It's always going to be the same. It's been years. You won't accept my gift. That's what we do to each other. We start to expect things to be done, ready. They're not.
It's the conditions you put around that create the problem. When you go at somebody and you go at the situation, or you go at your child or your spouse, and you take away the conditions and you say, I wanna acknowledge I was a really horrible person. I don't know how horrible I was to you. It affected you in a way that I can't understand, but I want to, and I want to get there. And the problem with letting those build over time is then you think it's just such a big thing, you give up hope of changing, or you do it that way where there's conditions around it that if they don't meet those, you have an excuse to punk out. Then you're being a punk, and then that's your responsibility. So when you take away the conditions, you're like, I want a relationship with you, I want to connect with you, and I will do what it takes to get there, if that's even possible. If that's not possible with you, I will accept that as well, and that responsibility for the choices that I made as a consequence for the choices I made.
And you got to remember that it's not meant to be easy. The growth in your communication, the growth in your relationship is going to be in the uncomfortable space. It's going to be when it's a little awkward, when it's a little bit hard. If it were easy, we'd all have really well-functioning, happy families. It's not. But be willing to get in there and do it. And ask yourself, if you have to, 1,000 times, what would I like to create with my relationship? What would be the ideal relationship? How can I get there? What would be the steps I need to take to start doing that and living that way? And I think of, this is kind of a little off analogy, but I remember reading about Michael Jordan, and he would practice shooting free throws in his mind far more than he did on the court. He would allow himself to see the free throws going in and the three-pointers going in so many times that by the time he got to the court, he'd done it so many times. I encourage my clients to think the same way about letting go of their resentments. Practice in your mind forgiving that person, saying I'm sorry. If you can't do it right now physically, do it in the mental and spiritual realm. Allow that energy to be released and to see it go. And when they've done that, it's just so much more natural and easy when they have the one-on-one.
It's so interesting that you brought that up, or that made you think of it. So the science and the studies behind it are, so in a Harvard study in, I think, 2009, they had piano players come in, and they had piano players play, and they had piano players just imagining playing, and the same areas of their brain lit up. Your brain cannot tell the difference between something that has happened or something you're imagining going to happen as any less real. So there's so much science now behind what some of the, intuitively we understand as humans is in visualizing that and seeing that happen and seeing that happen, and that creates possibilities in ways that it probably won't happen the way you think it will, but when it does and when it presents itself, you'll be ready and you'll be open to it. And it could just happen, something that simple, that you're driving to the fast food store and you're getting food and the person says, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, let's just let it go. And all of a sudden it's done. And since you prepared for it, it's not this thing. It's not this big, you've done it and you've done it and you've done it. So my wife wanted to go see your sister, and their relationships are really just not good. There's not connection there, and older sister's just really selfish. That's it. And I was like, why do you want to, you're trying to go to dinner with it? Why? I don't, just kind of being negative about it. And she's like, yeah, but I show up in the relationship in the way that I decide, and that's how I want to show up in the relationship. And it's that attitude that I will show up in the relationship the way that my best way, and it doesn't matter how you show up. And it really doesn't. You show up, if you need to be nice, be nice. It doesn't matter what they say. If you're going to be forgiving, be forgiving. If you're going to be connected, be connected. If you're going to, really fight for it, be willing to be hurt a little bit as you're working through that. You show up in the relationship how you want to show up, not dependent or conditional on how the other person is showing up.
And I think what we're really looking at here is we have these locked patterns of communication. And a lot of those locked patterns are from our past, from ways we've heard things, way things have been done for time over time. Now we're looking at, am I willing to do it different? Am I willing to show up how I want to show up? Am I willing to have a choice in this? That statement, my mom will never change. There's no choice in that.
Right. No possibility.
There's no possibility. However, if you can allow a little space, I can change in the relationship in the way I show up for my mom. When she rejects me, I can stand up with boundaries and say how I feel. And if she chooses to receive that, it's her choice. If she doesn't, fine. If she does, wow. That impossible thing now just became possible.
My mom puts me down, and I let her do that instead of asking for validation. Like, okay, no more. Like, when you start becoming aware of, I'm going to show up, and it's not just the giving end, it's the receiving end. You also let people know how you expect to be treated and noticed and talked to as well. Instead of letting them put you down and then holding the resentments and getting mad at your kids because your mom didn't want to validate what you said, and now you're unhappy with yourself, how you act with your kids, and you're also not getting validation from your mom, and it's all this communication stuff that's now jammed up in your body, and you can't sleep now, and etc. etc. So also on the receiving end, like, I'm going to tell people what I expect them to be and how they communicate with me, how they will talk to me, how they won't, they'll listen, and then show up the way that you say you're going to show up.
Hell, ultimately, you're asking people in your life to be your allies. I want you to be on my side. I want to end the war. I want to move on. I want to create this. You be my ally or not, and then align with them.
A word that really works in these situations that helps create space is practice. I want to practice a different relationship with you. I want to practice a different connection. I want to practice a different future. I want to practice this. And that gets you through a lot of the messy part of the change part.
And let us remind the listeners, it's the I. I would like to do this. Mm-hmm. I want to. I'm creating this. Remember, it's about you. What you're willing to change. Don't get pulled into that trap of, I want to change this because you are not a good communicator.
It would be better if you did that. Nope.
That's not how we're thinking.
So a lot of really good stuff in communication. There's a couple of topics that came up that we'll bring up on the next one. I think the how do you help a loved one take some of your insider advice, help them see that. When people want to grow around you, how to create an environment. Any other communication things that came up that we want to talk about in the next one?
Yeah, I think it's wise to not fall victim to communication traps, which we can go into that a little bit, and to stop putting people in boxes. Just like listening to the current environment right now that's going on, it feels like there's a difference between, people will say like, well, the millennials only do this. Yeah. And now the millennials are saying, okay, boomers, you only do this. So we're putting each other in these boxes and saying, this is all you can do. This is all you can do. Yet I know plenty of boomers who are very open-minded and kind and forward-thinking, and plenty of millennials that aren't. And I'm a millennial. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, sure, you can sort demographics, but don't get pulled into political traps, media traps, false victim villain traps. There's traps everywhere. At the end of the day, if you're working on you, cleaning your side of the street, doing the best you can, being aware of who you are, that's the focus of communication. That's where you get the most gains, have the best improvements in your life, get better career opportunities, get better family opportunities, better relationships with your loved ones, better wellness and happiness. Like, the pluses are huge. The sacrifices are huge too. But you got to let go of all that junk. That's really...
If you have the junk, you can't get the juice. You can't get the good stuff.
So true.
Love it. See you guys in the next Winning Together podcast. Jared, the clinician, and Shay, the coach. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.